Welcome to IT Pro TV. I'm your host, Don.
Coming at you live from San Francisco, California.
You're watching IT Pro TV.
Hello again, and thank you for watching IT Pro TV, helping you learn wherever you go. I'm Zach Memis, your host, as we continue on with CompTIA A Plus 902, Troubleshoot PC Security Systems Part 2. There was a Part 1. Hopefully you saw that. This is Part 2. Who's bringing us all this information that we need? Wes Bryan. Wes, good to see you again, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Zach. That's right. We're going to be moving into more of those PC security issues. And in the first part, we talked about, well, just a couple of things that can really affect your machines. We talked about pop-ups, browser redirections, and showed you really on some of the various security alerts that you can see and you should be aware of. Keep in mind, one of the last things that I mentioned was with security alerts, make sure that you're alerted, right? Don't disable security alerts. Some people, again, sometimes will find them a little bit too intrusive. I know before I started getting into computers, I would just disable these and not realize that, hey, something was going on and you're not aware of it. As I got into computers and got into systems administration, I started to notice that I really do want to know when something's going on. You know, you want to be aware of signs that something isn't right on your computer. So do keep that in mind. Security alerts are there for your benefit. Now, moving on, there are some other things that we're going to talk about too, and one of the big things that can happen a lot of times is slow performance. Now, slow performance, got to be careful with that one. All right, because sometimes slow performance can be considered a security issue, and it's really nothing more than, well, bad browsing habits, a slow hard drive. It could have nothing to do with malware. Now, one of the easiest things to do is run a malware scan on your computer right away if you want to try to figure out whether it's malware or not. But again, sometimes malware can manifest itself in the form of slow performance. Let me show you what I mean here. Some of the things that can happen, actually, sometimes you can see things like memory leaks that happen. And we've been using this software here that I'm going to run really throughout this series here. And this one's, it's called Not My Fault. Let me go ahead and open up Not My Fault here. A couple of things that can happen. We've already shown you guys in the past things like PC and OS lockups, if you will. PC lockups, operating system lockups, right, where the system hangs. And that can happen, right? So one of the things that you might notice is that, hey, you've got, you're using your programs, you're using your computer, and then all of a sudden, well, you decide that you want to do something with your computer, and when you do, well, unfortunately, what ends up happening is you can't really use the computer at all. You'll notice here something's going on. I can't, and notice it's locking up, right? It's not responding. I'm having some kind of issue here, right? That could be a telltale sign that you have malware, could be a problem with the computer, could just be the fact that you need to reboot the application, right? But notice that I am having some kind of issue here, and it's causing a problem on my computer. Now, let's see if we can force close this. One of the things that you can do is you can try to wait until it, until the software itself responds. In this case, it's telling me, hey, we've got an issue here, so you just have to close the program, right? And I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this because it's trying to figure out what's going on. Now, I caused that problem myself, please understand that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to manifest itself in that manner. All right, you might get things like here where programs won't load, right? That could be problems as well. All right, so do keep that in mind here. This might be something here, and I'm going to try to load the other one, and probably not going to load, and I do believe I know why. Let me go ahead real quick, and we'll bring up our task manager. And another thing too about malware and slow performance, right? I can see that I've got 100% CPU utilization right here. Something's causing a problem with it in this machine, and I can kind of sort these according to whatever the process is that might be causing the problem here. Or I could go to the details option and I could look through here and say, hey, do I find something in the background that's running that might be causing the problem? Well, even though, notice the software is closed. You notice that we closed it down? But I want you to see something here. The executable is still running in the background. Right, that's another thing that might happen. You start getting slow performance because you've got an application or a bug, malware that's running in the background and you're not aware of it, even though maybe an application was closed down. So what we can do is we can, I'm going to end the whole entire process tree. Hopefully this doesn't, oh, access is denied, so it's not going to let me do that. That's interesting. We'll try to end the task. I think it's going to fail again on me. Yeah. So, all right. So, one of the things that you can do, and this is a legendary fix-all sometimes for your computers, are reboots, right?
That's what I was going to say.
But I want to go ahead and mention something now as we go into reboots that you might have to go into as well to potentially fix problems that you might have when you get bugs, and that is the pre-installation environment. Pre-installation environments, remember that the operating system isn't being loaded into the machine, if you will, or into RAM. In fact, what's happening here, quite the opposite, is when you have something like a pre-installation environment, the hard drive really it isn't really active. Honestly, what ends up happening is that you're loading a memory resonant operating system into RAM, and it could give you access to the hard drive so that you could try to fix whatever problem might be happening if it happens to be a security issue. Let me show you what I mean here. I'm going to try to restart this machine. All right, so let's see if we can go ahead and we can get this restarted. It might just take a second. And I'm going to try to boot into the BIOS, essentially the one-time boot menu, and I'm going to point it to the ISO. And we're going to load up that memory resonant operating system, essentially a pre-installation environment, and we're going to use Windows Defender Offline. Remember, Windows Defender Online means essentially what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be running Windows from inside of the operating system, and what's going to end up, oh, looks like I missed it there. Let me try this again. You got to be really, really quick here. What's going to essentially happen is we're going to be running Windows from a pre-installation environment. It might take me a couple times to get this. Oh, and it's doing its automatic repair. I'm going to try it one more time. One more time. Oh, I can't catch it. Nope. All right, didn't get it the first time. Let's go ahead. We'll try it one more time. And again, as we reboot this, what you're going to end up seeing is that it should, just like an installation disk, it should prompt me to find the any key. Now, Zach, I'm not exactly sure where the any key is on the keyboard, but hopefully we'll find it here. And again, you can see it just takes a second, but just understand that what is going on here is this is no different than putting an optical disk, if you will, into the drive or a bootable USB device. But what's happening here is this is your pre-installation environment, much the same way the Windows recovery environment is. The difference here is this is a specific version of Windows Defender, and it's called Offline. Windows Defender Offline, it's the acronym, as though in A+, you need another one of those, is WDO, Windows Defender Offline. It's free download out there from Microsoft. And then it's got a little executable, and you could create this, you can create your own offline disk here. And what you can do is you can put it into a machine. So if your machine, you start getting slow performance, your machine won't boot up, then what you can do is you can essentially load this into RAM, this operating system. Your hard drive isn't initiated, and I can point it essentially to the hard drive that I want to run it against. And you can see right here it's telling me that there is update definitions. You always have to update definitions here. So I don't want you to think that there's something wrong if you use this at home or if you guys use this yourself and you're like, wait a second here, Wes, why'd you tell us something that's out of date? Well, all definitions usually go out of date within a week, right? That's why we constantly have patches and updates, right? Definitions are updated regularly. So regardless of the time that you download this, you're going to have to hit update definitions. Now, sometimes I've had this have a problem where it'll download a certain portion of them, but it won't install everyone. Don't let that concern you. Just go ahead. You can see it's downloading here. It'll download a portion of them, but sometimes it doesn't download all of them. And we should get a warning here that says, hey, you know, I couldn't install all of the updates or the definition updates. That's fine. At least it gives you something to start with. And you can use this as well. I'll show you another utility that we can do too. You know, if you start getting things like slow performance inside of your operating system, notice that it says it couldn't check virus definitions. And again, I expect that to happen. We're going to go ahead and choose OK to this. And now notice that this is essentially your Windows Defender interface, right? And what I can do is I go to Home and I can do a custom scan, and I can say, hey, I want to scan a certain location. Pay attention to the location that you are going to search. You can see that we have a couple of different drive letters here. Be careful with the drive letters, and the reason I say that, here, let me zoom in a little bit better there, is because the drive letters don't necessarily match up to the drive letters that you typically see with inside your operating system. Remember that it's local disk C by default in Windows. Well, it's actually here in our pre-installation environment, it's actually local disk E. All right, so just pay attention, and one of the things I like to do is expand these out to figure out, well, which drive is it, right? In this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just kind of pay attention to the data drive here, and we'll go ahead and we'll scan that here. All right, so I'll go ahead and choose OK to that. We'll let it scan. Shouldn't take too long on this one, but this is kind of customizing a scan. And notice what it said. All right, it said scan completed. Notice this said scan 6 items. Notice what it's telling me right here. This app detected a potential threat on the PC, right? Well, I want to get some details here. There's that darn pesky Icar virus strain that I was telling you about. And again, remember, it's not actually a virus, but it is telling me that there are potential threats here, and I want to take care of them, right? So that's the good thing about a pre-installation environment, is the fact that the hard drive isn't active. I'm not running the hard drive at all, right? But what I'm doing is I'm running this operating system, which is Windows Defender Offline, which is a very small footprint WinPE disk, essentially, with Windows Defender streamed into it, that I can point it right to the locations that I want to scan, and I can run those scans. And in this case,
very efficient safeguard.
Very, very. It's great to have. Doesn't cost anything, and that goes back to your question, you know, that you asked in the last, the first part of this, Zach. And again, great question, is the fact that, hey, do I need to pay for something, or what Windows gives me or Microsoft gives me, is that good enough? Well, if you don't have money, this is great to have. It's a great alternative. It's a great option to have. But if you do have money as well, plenty of manufacturers out there that develop very good software, including Microsoft, again. So I don't want to overlook that. And we apply the actions, all right, and you can see that it says taking a few seconds here. And it's going to run through the drive, and it says, hey, there, everything's good. We're green lighted. We're ready to go. All right. So in that aspect, what I could do is I could just turn around and I could get out of essentially the pre-installation environment. Now, the other thing that you could do too is you could also do this from command prompt. You could do it from the terminal. I'm going to go ahead and just restart this machine here, and I won't press the any key here. I'll keep my hands off of the desk here, and we'll let it go ahead and boot back into Windows, and we can talk about some of the other things that we need it to do. That's great in a sense that, you know, if you do have applications that start to cause problems, you've seen how one application, now that problematic application, it's kind of self-inflicted pain here, or self-inflicted wound. I made, not my fault, lock the machine up. I made it to where I couldn't interact with it anymore. But those are some of the common symptoms that you will see when malware gets on your devices. And I can't shut the executable down. I've had them so bad, and I'll go ahead and get logged in here. I've had them so bad before on machines where what would end up happening was you couldn't even do something like drop down to the taskbar here, right click and choose Task Manager. All right, because believe it or not, Task Manager, if I go over to the Details tab, and let's see, can I see, let me scroll down here. Okay, so Task Manager is an executable, right? Let me show you something else too. If I run Computer Management, all right, and we'll go ahead and just minimize that, because I really just want to kind of show you guys this here. I believe we'll see Computer Management as an executable in the list too. I could be wrong there. It might be running from an MMC. But again, these are valid executables. And what happens sometimes is malware and security, you know, some of the security issues that you run into is that malware gets on your computer and it doesn't allow you to run these administrative utilities. They're smart enough to know that it says, hey, don't let these run. And in that case, what's going to end up happening is you're going to have to run a pre-installation environment. You're going to have to run like a Malwarebytes. Malwarebytes is a great one because, again, you can boot to it. You can boot to like a rescue disk. It's essentially just, it seems like it's a small Linux Live CD, and you can repair your computer when the operating system isn't loaded. All right, so Zach, those are a couple of the things that we need to worry about. I do want to, let me see if I can get Not My Fault. Okay, so Not My Fault is running good. Let's go ahead and let's dive back into the desktop here. I want to show you some other things that you might see. And again, remember, I'm using this application to simulate the symptoms that you see. Understand that these still, even though this application is causing the problem, malware manifests itself this way as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cause a memory leak, all right? And memory leaks are interesting in the fact that they can happen because of bad coding. They can also happen because of malware, and they can cause system hangups. They could cause PC lockups, right? They can cause applications to crash. Now, you already seen the application crash. We demonstrated that with Not My Fault. I couldn't even close it down. But let me show you where you could find memory leaks, right? If I right-click on my taskbar, choose Task Manager, all right, and I go to the Performance tab, I want you to pay attention to something. Notice the memory is at 1.1 gigs. That's half of the memory that I've allocated to this virtual machine. But more so, I want you to watch this number, all right? Notice what's happening to that number. That's the available memory that I have in the machine, right? Notice, see what's happening? It's consuming more and more and more memory, and it keeps happening. And we're getting less and less memory. Now, what can start to happen here is you can have your PC's going to lock up. Now, your PC could lock, it could do a couple of things, right? It can lock up to where you can't do anything. It can actually shut the whole entire graphical user interface down, because the graphical user interface is controlled by something known as DWM. Let me see if I can get to it before the application actually, because the application is going to crash here shortly. Actually, let me go to details here. And I do believe in here, yeah, DWM right there. That is your Windows Desktop Manager, right? That's responsible. And notice that it needs and it's using and consuming around 17,000 kilobytes of memory. Well, at a certain point when you have malware or a problematic app that starts causing you problems and consuming your memory, like this is a memory leak. Notice I'm losing memory right here. Notice it keeps dwindling and it keeps dwindling. Now we're going to see what's going to happen here, and I'll keep my fingers crossed. I don't know if we're going to get a blue screen, right? The BSOD. I don't know if what we're going to do is we're going to see an entire graphical user interface just cease to function. All right, malware does this. Worms do this a lot. All right, remember what a worm does, right? It replicates itself across multiple locations and it consumes your memory, your CPU utilization, your RAM utilization, your disk I/O. You can see some internet activity going in the background. That'll start to skyrocket and start to spike. We're getting close. And what we should see, now understand I don't have a screensaver on this, so when you might see that this screen is going to disappear. Watch what happens. We're getting really, really close. And Windows is really trying right now to save itself, right? It's taking and it's paging memory. It's taking memory and it's putting memory that's used by applications. It's writing it to the hard drive. But guess what? It doesn't matter. In this case, this application is still consuming memory. We're getting close. All right, remember what we needed to run the Windows desktop, the graphical user interface. We needed 17,000K. Well, we're at about 200,000K right now, right? So we still got a little bit of memory left, but what happens when our memory utilization gets to be around 99%, right? We're at 90%, we're at 95%. If you guys and gals out there just bear with me talking a little bit about some of these things, well, we'll see what's going to go on here. So again, this can happen too. Spam is another thing that you have to worry about. Remember, spam is just unsolicited emails that don't open. If we could take a look, I really need to see this desktop or we're going to miss it. Keep in mind, spam is a bad thing. That is unsolicited emails. You never download or open emails that come from unknown sources. Don't download attachments, right? Okay, we're getting close here. Look, we're down to about 44K. And it's getting close. What we should see here real soon, if everything happens the way I think it's going to happen, we're at 100% memory utilization. Oh, and we'll notice that we're getting, notice what's happening. The desktop manager's saying, wait a second, I don't have any more memory. I can't run, right? I've got a complete system lockout. I can't get into the computer here.
Even though I know you've done this, it's scaring me.
Yes. This is time. This is the time when you put on your tinfoil hat. No, when you use good security practices, right? Again, things like spam. All right, and thank you out there. I just wanted to make sure that we got to see that real quick. You can see that I really can't see anything anymore, right? Again, remember when the memory utilization gets consumed like this, a lot of times, like I said, worms can do this, and they can just cause all kinds of problems. Now, I'm going to go ahead, and what I'll do here in the background while we continue on is I'm actually going to restart this machine so I don't have to worry about, not my fault, sitting here consuming additional memory. Sometimes I have seen where it actually causes a blue screen. Again, because your operating system needs a certain amount of memory. Gosh, I think the bare minimum is like 512 megs of memory to run. Now, that being said, did you see how well it did? The operating system continued to run in even less than 512 megs of RAM, but what you get is the painful experience. You don't get the crisp, sharp image. So yeah, our machine seems to be back online here, which is a great thing too. Now, I will tell you another thing that can happen as well, update failures. Update failures can happen for a couple of reasons. You might have an internet connection problem, right? Because again, internet connectivity issues cause issues, and that might cause the fact that you can't communicate out there with Windows Update. Understand that Windows Update is also runs off of a service, and like we said before, services, if they're disabled by malware, can cause problems as well. Could be user error as well. Could be an internet connectivity issue. I've seen it where malware has caused problems with system drivers, and some of those system drivers have been directly related to the network adapter, again causing issues too. Some of the other things that you could see are files disappearing. Files disappearing is a telltale sign that you've got certain things that are being erased, if you will. If you see system files being renamed, that can happen as well. Renamed system files is telltale of some kind of malware that's on your system. Likewise, permission changes. When ACLs start to change, your access control list, right? The permissions inside of Windows start to change. These are also things that could cause you issues likewise. Access denied issues, these are some other things that you need to worry about. You start to get to access denied, that could be the Windows protecting itself, but it could be a virus trying to protect itself as well.
And Wes, maybe you mentioned this and maybe my brain was somewhere else, but rogue antivirus, or rogue viruses rather?
Yeah, these are nasty little pieces of malware.
Yeah.
Rogue antivirus, all right, scareware, sometimes as I call it as well. Rogue antivirus is one that makes it look like it is an antivirus solution where all of a sudden it starts running on your system, and it tells you have 100 gazillion viruses, and they would love to get them off your system provided you pay them money.
I've seen that many times.
That's rogue antivirus. Yeah. The other thing that the rogue antiviruses will do is browser redirections, which is kind of interesting. And when they get on your system, they act like they're running. They lock out all the other executables, and the only thing that they're allowed to run is Internet Explorer, and it points to their malicious website so that you'll buy whatever their software is. Again, rogue antiviruses can also be a problem. They also call out things like, for instance, hijacked email. Talk about responses from users regarding email. Again, keep in mind, the best thing that you can do is don't reply to emails that you don't recognize. If it didn't come from your company, if it isn't something that you recognize, you know the source, you trust the source, don't open it. You might see that they talk about automated replies from unknown sent email. Again, that's just another form of spam. Hijacked emails can be where somebody has done a phishing scam to you. They got your account information, and when they got your account information, they're now using it to access your email and send out additional forms of spam. So you do have to be careful with that too. Now, some of the tools that we've talked about, we've kind of already mentioned in past episodes, but I kind of want to go through the list here. System Restore is a great way that if you get a piece of malware on your system, it installs an application, a rogue application, remember you can restore your system to an earlier point in time. With something known as a restore point. Now, they're also called snapshots. You do need to ensure that it is turned on. We've shown you in other episodes how to run System Restore and where to keep that running. In fact, we'll go ahead just as a real quick recap. Well, while we're here, we might as well. If I right-click on our Windows desktop here, the Windows tile, and I choose System, all right, and I go to System Protection over here in this hyperlink. Keep in mind that we have System Protection, and is it turned on or is it not turned on? Now, I've got an extra data drive in here, and I don't have it turned on. So if I want System Restore to protect this as well, then I've actually got to configure it, and I've got to tell it to turn on system protection. All right, and again, that's up to me as to whether I want to turn it on. Now I can see that it's on both drives. You do need to make sure that you have system restore points. Remember, you can create these manually just by choosing create a restore point. I can do that right here. We could call this, I don't know, because I'm so creative, 229.02 A plus demo. All right, and that's a great thing. I can go ahead and create that. Now, like I've said in past episodes with System Restore, honestly, I can't remember if I said this, so I'll say it here just to make sure that we are complete. Notice the restore point was successfully created. Was it? I don't know. I never trust the dialog box. I always make sure. So one of the ways that you can always make sure that your restore points have been created is start to do a system restore. Now, I have no intentions on doing a system restore right now, but I could choose next and notice that it is created, right? And that isn't important, right? I always make sure that if I create a restore point, I start a restore process just to know that it has been created. Remember, you know, when we talk about taking backups of your operating system, you don't want to wait till you need your backups to verify that the backup was successful. All right, so that's a very good thing to have in play. All right, Zach, well, it looks like I've got a bunch more to talk about, but again, it looks like we might have to go into a part 3 on this one as well.
Troubleshoot PC security systems, there'll be a part 3. There was a part 2 right now. You just watched that, and there was a part 1. Make sure you watch them all, and in fact, watch everything in the CompTIA A plus 902 series. You'll be so glad you did. And thank you for watching IT Pro TV. Remember, a good IT Pro is always learning. I'm Zach Memis.
And I'm Wes Bryan.
And thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching IT Pro TV.